Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 8 of Welcome to the Dark Sun, also known as the one where you shouldn't mess with things. If you remember, last session we came in from a ghost ship battle and then fought a psionic, and during that ghost ship battle one of our chariots got damaged. It was Bardoc's and Dono's. It didn't so much as get damaged physically, it was more like aesthetically damaged, and because Bardock is so ridiculously in love with King Calic and the star on the front of his chariot is the star, like the symbol of King Calic, it had to get fixed. There was no denying it. Bardock had to get this chariot fixed. So the first thing we set out to do was to find someone who could paint this for us, and all of us decided, hey, let's get our chariots painted too. Let's get rid of this generic King Calic symbol that we all don't appreciate as much as Bardock, and let's get something new. So we went to the artisan district and we found this guy named Anatu. He was a dwarf, a really like slow dwarf, and at the table we just started talking about him and we decided he was like this really gnarly surfer dude. So he had like bleached dreaded beard and was just like, yeah guys, check out my turtle shells and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty funny because that's not how the character started out at all, but we made it be a thing. Bardock was up first and he was basically, can you fix this star on the front but then also paint a beautiful mural of King Calic all across the front. And like I said, Dono shares the chariot with Bardock, and Dono does not so much love King Calic. I mean, he doesn't like him at all. Anytime Bardock goes off about how great King Calic is, Dono is the most dissident voice out of it all. So the entire time, Dono's just staring at Bardock going, are you seriously doing this? And Bardock's like, here's 2 gold pieces, like get it done. And so the guy's like, alright, it's gonna take about a week to get this done. Which he was totally cool with because he's like, I'm gonna have a sweet chariot after this. One of the other chariots has Drudok, who's the other Thri-kreen, and then Vashti, who's the half-elf. And so they worked out a design together. The very front has Thri-kreen arms, like doing like a West Coast symbol, because we were like trying to figure out how to do bug life. But if we were to use actual letters, then people would know that we're literate and that's illegal. So the plan was to have like 4 Thri-kreen arms doing like a bug life thing and then 5 daggers on either side kind of making wings, which is also pretty cool. And then playing up Salantithius's folk hero roots and how he's trying to become like the greatest Thri-kreen ever apparently. He and Nibbles decided to paint like a dunescape on the entire chariot and with like tiki designs in the background playing to Nibbles' history. And then with pictographs depicting all the quests we've gone on. So I thought that was pretty cool. Way cheaper than the King Calic love mural also. After we got this all sorted out, we were about to leave and Dono asks Anatu to show him inside to see if there's any other art that he might be interested in. But that was not his plan at all. As soon as he gets in there, he's like, okay, you know that chariot that you're painting the mural of King Calic on? Listen, can you paint a likeness of me on the side looking absolutely legendary? Here's a gold piece. And the guy's like, for sure. And the only stipulation though was that Bardock cannot find out until it's been painted and revealed. So we didn't get our chariots back this session, but next session should be quite interesting to see how Bardock reacts to that. If you remember, at the end of last session, I ended off saying we didn't get any quests, which meant that we had to go to Haka, our Thri-kreen quest giver, to get some quests so we could do something. We were hoping for some close quests because without our chariots, everything's gonna take twice as long. But, you know, it never seems to work out quite the way you hope it will. The first quest came to us courtesy of the guy that we got the giant fire beetles for. His name is Silic, and he wanted us to go get a wyvern from out in the desert that had like these crazy markings on it. It's like a crazy flying lizard thing, from what I understand. It was 2 days away by foot, which isn't so bad without the chariots, but the problem is this thing is large, so how are we gonna drag it back? Should we bring our Crodlu out? We weren't really sold on that one. Maybe wait till we get the chariots. The second quest was for an elf named Arua, and it was to go locate 12 missing elves that were supposed to arrive in tier 5 days previous. Basically, she left them in room and she set out on a caravan to get to tier, and they were marching to get there, and that's the last she heard of them about 2 weeks ago. And here's where everything math related went terribly wrong. So they were supposed to arrive 5 days ago. And so the guys were like, oh, then they're only 5 days away from tier or less. And it's like trying to explain to them, and then they're just being jerks going, oh no, they're probably like just 2 days away. But in reality, they could be like 2 weeks away. So we kept that one to the side for a while. And the final one was for Dasari, who runs a caravan route. We've worked with her before, and it was to go locate a caravan that left its outpost and never made it to tier. Again, that's a good one that works well with chariots. Basically, all of them are good ones for chariots, but without that option, we had to weigh the pros and cons of which one we should do. Dono was super for going to go find these elves because he is an elf, and shockingly, Bardock, who hates all elves, was not against this. Obviously, the Thri-Kreen were like, yeah, let's go find 12 elves. It's like a smorgasbord. Dono still doesn't trust us. He still wants us dead. But Vashti brought up a very good point that we're not going to eat him. We're just going to threaten to eat him the whole time. So at least somebody's paying attention to what's going on. So we decided to take the quest to go find the elves from Arua, and she said she would give us a beat it necklace and a gem when we came back. We don't even need to bring them back alive. If they're dead, that's fine. She just wants to know what happened to them. So we picked up a bunch of supplies because who knows, it could be 5 days or it could be more, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to die on our trek, and we headed out of the city. The first day of travel was super boring. We spotted an oasis, but fortunately some people with some pretty good perception realized it was a fake oasis, so we didn't go after it. And then we just kind of kept going. Nibbles, as a hobbit, travels faster than all of us, so she started doing cartwheels so she wouldn't be super far ahead of us, and then us two bugs, Drudok and Salentithius, decided to have long jump competitions to see who could jump further because they can jump 50 feet forward. And meanwhile, Dono was actually being a productive member of the party and searching for elf tracks. And then obviously things went a little wrong. Drudok launched himself forward and landed among a bunch of needles. Fortunately, didn't step on one, so that's a win. But Salentithius, he's on to these things now. Even though he doesn't get a favored enemy, cacti are basically his favored enemy, so he just peaced out because ain't getting nowhere near that. Turns out it was a sand cactus, and if it stabs you, it's just gonna like drag you down towards it. So we gave it a wide berth. Drudok was able to jump out of it, and then we continued on our way. We set up camp for the night. Unfortunately, all our tents are in our chariots because they're heavy and they're way too heavy to carry on our own. And on the third watch, which consists of Drudok and Bardock, that's not at all confusing. Drudok was wandering around and he came across a rock with some tubes sticking out of it. So naturally he went to investigate. And as he got closer, he realized that it was a turtle with some tubes on its back. So naturally one of the players was like, is that Blastoise? Because it's probably Blastoise. Turns out it was a Chithrang. I hope I'm saying that right. And so Drudok called Bardock over and they like stared at it. And then an Orpsu went flying above it and it was like and ate it. And they're like, all right, well, this is fine. We'll just leave you on your own. You're clearly not Blastoise. I don't need to catch you. So in the morning we set off and we continued walking and we came across these like weird dunes near the road. And when we got closer to them, turns out it was a bunch of raiders that had buried themselves in the sand. There were 15 total, with 2 of them being commanders. And these commanders were psionic. Yay! We just had one of those the day before. Why not have 2 now? It'll be fine! This was actually a pretty funny battle because the first thing Drudok tried to do was jump on one of the commanders because the commanders were 60 feet away. So he just walked 10 feet forward and leapt 50 feet. But he missed landing on the commander and they tried to bite him. And that didn't work either. So then you just got this stupid bug who like flew forward and is just like standing there licking this guy's shield, basically. This could have been a really bad battle for us because there were a lot of them and the psionics were giving us lots of trouble, but it worked out pretty well. Vashti managed to get some of the other raiders to run away, and once Bardock was able to make his will save, he was able to get a hold person on one of the psionics, which then I, as Salentithius, did the greatest thing ever to. Drudok failed his running and leaping on a person, but Salentithius made it. And it was amazing, because it's an auto crit if you hit someone when they're held, and so the DM was like, I guess you landed on him and you're like 450 pounds, so that would hurt. So he was super dead, like right away. Meanwhile, the other psionic made this like mime wall between him and Drudok, and so Drudok was trying to get around. But then he decided to mess with Dono, and so Dono's like, why are you guys still fighting this weird thing over there? Like, that guy disappeared. We won. We've got like this one raider to take care of and we're done. So he was super confused when Bardock summoned like 8 giant wolf spiders. Why spiders? why spiders? They're so gross. And had them start attacking the psionic. Not long after that, we kind of took everybody out and we were good. We took a short rest because a lot of people need to get their HP back, but very sadly we didn't take a long rest, so I had no spells. And after this short rest, Domo was able to pick up some footprints heading in the direction we were traveling, and we found a crack in the ground that was caused by a desert quake. Because we were looking for these elves, we definitely had to go down and investigate. We yelled down, nobody answered. And so fortunately we did have some rope and we started to lower Nibbles down first. Nibbles went down and then Dono started to follow after. The two Thri-Kreen stayed up top because we're super fat and so we can't get down. And so we just did the thing that we always do, which is like constantly high-fiving. Because why wouldn't you do that if you had 4 arms? Once Nibbles got to the bottom, she found a bunch of bones that looked like they were recently picked clean. So when Dono went down, he was trying to tell if they were elves or not. And then suddenly these claws started reaching up from the ground and trying to drag them down. Dono's response was, I'm gonna count as many of these as I can, assume they're the elves, and get back up the rope. The only problem with that was Vashti was coming down at the time, and then Nibbles was down there by herself. Turns out these monsters coming up from the sand are anacores, also known as dune freaks, and they just want to eat you. Probably more than Thri-Kreen want to eat elves. And I mean, Dono chose the devil he knew in the Thri-Kreen by going back up the rope versus the devil he didn't know in the anacores by staying down there. Vashti leapt from the rope and just started to grapple as she does, and we were able to throw a couple spells from up top and it wasn't too bad of a battle. We did find some treasure there. It was a nice leather purse, but it wasn't a cured leather purse. It was like a very fresh elven leather purse. And so Bardock and Dono just like started to go nuts about it. Dono was like, we're not taking this, we're burying this. And Bardock was like, why would we leave something behind? He's all like reduce, reuse, recycle kind of thing. So that went on for quite a while before we finally decided that we all needed to get down in this cavern and start exploring because there was a hallway to the one side. So we go down this hallway and we find a door at the end. We managed to get through with no problem, and it's a very cold room when we come into it. And right in the middle there's like this brown mold. And as soon as Nibbles comes in with her torch, this thing freaks out. And I fortunately wasn't inside the room, but Nibbles, Vashti, and Dono were definitely in the room and they got hit hard. And so Bardock decided, I should shoot fire at this. Well, it didn't like the fire from the torch. It really didn't like the fire that he was shooting at it, so it got even bigger, and even though we weren't in the room, we took mega damage. At this point, my max HP was 38. I was down to 8 like that. And so if fire doesn't work, what do you use? You use cold. Unfortunately, I think I was the next to act. And fortunately, I think I'm the only person in the party who has a cold spell, and so I Ray of Frosted it, and I critted it just to make sure, and that mold died. But thank God, because we were all dead. Like, that was party, dead, bye, gone, end of Dark Sun. Like, this could have been really bad. I was even contemplating, maybe I could just save the Thri-Kreen by my side. I'll just take him and drag him out, but once I moved, that would have been the end of me anyways. So thankfully, we didn't die, and we got a lot of XP for that too, because 3 people did die. So we stabilized all of them, everybody healed a lot, and then we carried on. So we come across this door, and the 2 bugs are trying to get it open. Salentithius tried to lockpick it, didn't work. And so Drudok came to lend a hand. While Salentithius tried to sleight of hand through the door without getting noticed, Drudok decided to persuade it to let him through, and then hilariously at the same time Vashti just smashed through the door. So Sal just walked in and was like, it worked, we are awesome, and then the bugs high-fived again. The bugs do a lot of high-fiving because they're pretty awesome. And then Salentithius started doing like the victory thing with all of his arms, and Drudok, Vashti, and Dono started playing like the Rocky song on all their instruments, and then to finish it off, Drudok shot out dancing lights into the room, and so it was like the most epic entrance into a room. In our Planescape campaign, I actually had a very similar, really awesome entrance with my character, and so I guess that's just what I do, like try to get the most ridiculous entrances into rooms or situations. As the light shot through the room, we actually saw something moving, and it turned out that there's like 12 mole men. I believe they're actually called hedgekins, but battle time again. The best part about this one was that they could phase in and out of the walls, and so it was really hard for us to fight them, but some fireballs and an adapted tidal wave to sound wave kind of took care of them for us, so that wasn't too bad. And in this room there was a stone door at one end and a wooden door to the other side. And here's another situation where things could have gone terribly wrong. So we get into this room, there's no traps, there's no issue, and there's a statue in the middle of it with this guy like holding up a wand. Okay, a stick. It's a stick, but we know it's a wand. And I checked the door for traps and there were no traps, and I see the statue, I'm like, there might be traps on that. So I take a dagger and I throw it at it, and it just like shoots up some lights around it. And I'm like, okay, it should be fine. So I go up to collect my dagger and I touch the statue. But kids, don't touch things. It's like D&D 101, don't touch things. And so I start to turn to stone, which was nice. Apparently if this spell completes, you weigh 10 times what you normally weigh. So that's like a 4,000 pound Thri-kreen. That ain't going anywhere. And because we all know how great Salentithius is at making his saves, didn't make the first save. Get 3 chances to make it, but didn't make the first one. So we're down to 2. After lengthy debate though, we decided that Bardock's Dispel Magic would work because the spell wasn't complete yet. And that, coupled with Vashti's Bardic Inspiration, thank God, managed to just get the save on it, and Salentithius was not turned into stone. It would have been very sad. I quite like him. And so now Salentithius has a thing against cacti and statues. Behind the statue on the other wall there was a door, so we all kind of skirted the statue with a wide berth and went through there into a secret passage. We get down to the end of the secret passage, and we all as players know there has to be a way out, but our characters could not roll to find it. Drudock and Salentithius tried that thing again where they persuaded the wall to open, and it didn't work, but yet again Vashti saved the day by actually finding where the switch was. And so we come into this room with a large cistern in the middle, and my first thought, as a person having read Lord of the Rings, is don't disturb the water. So what does Bardock do? Bardock throws stuff in the water, and as a player I yelled at him, fool of a toque, because come on. And sure enough, out comes a giant tentacle, and it grabs onto him, and it poisons him. And apparently this thing, like, once it grabs you, it kills you in 4 rounds, no matter what. I was thinking that electricity would be a good thing to have, but I didn't have any spells that I could use on that, so I Ray of Frosted the water, because that can't hurt, right? And then Vashti came and did what Vashti does best, and Vashti grappled this tentacle and pulled it out of the water. And it turns out that it wasn't an octopus or something as you would expect, or like some weird creepy kraken. It was just a weird creepy snake, like a 40-foot long snake. And in the end, Nibbles managed to punch it to death, while like Salentithius sat there and just kept Ray of Frosting the top of the cistern so it couldn't get back in. Apparently it will die if it can't get back in, which is great. But I was just like, I don't want anything else coming out of here. And we even managed to harvest 3 square feet of its like impenetrable skin. So should be able to do something cool with that. From this room there was another door, so we headed through there. And in this room we saw a stone door that was barred from the inside, which was definitely the stone door that we were looking at from the other room. So it was fantastic that we didn't try to go this way, because I don't know how we would have got through. And this was the treasure room. So inside this room, on the floor, there was a huge pile of silver pieces. I think there's like 30. It's not that huge. It's like a very small pile, actually. And on top of it, there was a ring. Having just come from 2 rooms where if you touch things, everything went terribly wrong, we decided to investigate this first. We have a wand that detects magic, and it didn't seem malicious. So Nibbles grabbed it and spent a rest with it to see what it was. And it was a Ring of Life ring, which makes the wearer immune to defiling magic. But most importantly, and probably most relevant for us, is whoever's wearing it gets to recover an extra hit dice each day. So we gave it to Dono, because Dono is very apt to dying, because Dono doesn't keep his mouth shut. And with that, we decided to lock up the door so we'd be in a safe room, even though a lot of the things that we faced came through the ground or the wall, but it's fine, I'm sure. And we decided to take a long rest because we desperately needed it. And that's where we ended up finishing off our session, because we still had to take the long trek back to Tyr. And by this point it was like 11:30 at night, and we had been playing for 6 hours. Over the course of the night though, everybody leveled up to level 6 at varying different times, because some people have been here for all the sessions and others have missed a few. It's kind of nice though. I know we've only leveled up 3 levels, but it still feels like every day we're getting a little more resilient against what Dark Sun can throw at us. Except for brown mold. Just avoid brown mold at all costs. It should kill you. Next session we are headed back to Tyr, and then we should also be able to pick up our chariots, which is super exciting, and then we can go off to do those other quests. If you want to be alerted when I post my next video, make sure you do hit that subscribe button so you'll know when it's coming up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.